Tonight's story isn't about monsters hiding under the bed or ghosts in the attic. It's about a man, just an ordinary Uber driver who picked up the same passenger every single day. At first, he thought it was easy money, but what started as a harmless routine became something he can never forget. So dim, the lights turn up the volume and listen closely, because sometimes the scariest rides are the ones that never really end. This is I drove the same passenger every day until I learned who he was visiting. You're listening to NightLore. I've been driving for Uber for about 4 years now, and I've met all kinds of people. The drunk, the quiet, the overly chatty ones, and those who just stare at their phones, pretending I don't exist. But there was one passenger who made me want to delete the app for good. It started as nothing unusual. He lived not far from my neighborhood, in a quiet cul-de-sac surrounded by half-empty houses. The pickup request came through early in the morning destination, a seaside town nearly 4 hours away. It was off-season late autumn, and most people avoided those long hauls. But I was new, broke and willing. When I pulled up, he was already standing outside. A man in his late 40s, maybe 50s. Neat hair, clean coat, not a word. He looked relieved when I arrived, not happy, not grateful, just relieved. Like I'd saved him from something. The entire ride he didn't speak. Not one word. And when we arrived, he just paid, stepped out, and walked toward the empty boardwalk, like he belonged there. No tip, no goodbye. I remember sitting there, thinking I'd made a mistake. 4 hours down, and no way back, except with a loss. The town was practically dead. Souvenir shops shuttered, salt air, thick and wet. A few locals wandering like ghosts. I killed some time with short rides for locals before heading home. Then, just as I was about to leave, I got a ping. Pick up same spot I dropped him off. It was him. Another 4 hours back. This time, he tipped 30%. And that's how it began. The next morning, I opened the app out of habit. There it was, again his address. Destination, that same seaside town. I laughed at the coincidence and accepted. He got in, said nothing. 4 hours there, 4 hours back. Another fat tip. By the end of the week, I stopped questioning it. Every weekday I'd pick him up at 7:50 a.m., drive him to the coast, wait around, and drive him back around 2 p.m. Like clockwork. He never changed seats, always sat behind the passenger side, never looked at his phone, never fell asleep, just stared out the window as the world slid by. After the first few trips, I started noticing strange little consistencies. He always wore the same coat, dark gray, neatly pressed. He always carried a small black bag on his lap. And when we stopped for gas, he never left the car. Sometimes I tried talking small talk, really. Nice day, huh? He'd nod. Once I joked, you must really like that seaside town. He smiled barely and said, the town means a lot to me. That was the first time I ever heard his voice. After that, he started speaking a little more. Not much, but enough to make me curious. He said he used to visit the town often, that it was peaceful, quiet. He told me about a little ice cream shop that made its own flavors, a bike rental by the cliffs, and a bookstore that smelled like salt and paper. He spoke with nostalgia, almost like he was describing memories that were more vivid than the present. When I asked if he lived there, once he said no. He said he lived off passive income now and had the freedom to go anywhere. But he only wanted to go there, every day. I started to recognize the streets myself. The same cracked roads, the faded hotel sign, the peeling paint on the pier. Sometimes I'd park near the boardwalk and wait for his return trip. I never saw him around, not once. It was strange I'd visit the spots he mentioned and never see him there. The town was small, quiet, easy to navigate, but he always seemed to vanish until it was time to go home. I tried not to think too much about it. After all, the money was good. But sometimes when I checked the rearview mirror, I caught him staring at me, or maybe threw me eyes glazed expression blank, like a man remembering something he could never let go of. One day, halfway through the trip, he said something that made my skin crawl. I go there to see my wife. I almost missed a turn. I didn't ask right away, just waited, let the silence hang. Then I asked, does she live there? He smiled faintly. She did. He talked about her like someone describing a dream they'd had years ago, vivid, fragmented, filled with love and pain. She had blonde hair, soft voice, always wore the same blue cardigan when they visited the sea. He said she used to collect seashells and line them up on their windowsill like trophies from the tide. I felt something tighten in my chest. It wasn't just sadness. It was something heavier. I asked quietly, did she pass away? He nodded once. She did. Long ago. He didn't say how. And I didn't ask. That day he tipped 50%. And for the first time when he left the car, I saw him smile. Not to me, but to the sea. Weeks later, he finally told me what happened. It was their anniversary. They had gone to the seaside town, the same hotel, same pier, to celebrate quietly, just the two of them. He remembered it was cold, the kind of cold that made your skin sting. They walked near the pier, talking about nothing, when he turned to check his phone. And when he looked back, she was gone. At first, he thought she'd wandered off, maybe gone to get coffee or take a photo, but she never came back. He searched everywhere, the beach, the hotel, every street and alley. He called the police that evening. They said she was probably lost, not local, that it happened sometimes. But days passed. No trace. A week later, they found her body floating under the pier. No signs of drowning, no signs of assault. Just there. He said her wedding ring was still on. That was how they confirmed it. The police called it an accident, though he never believed it. He said the tides were too weak that week, that she couldn't have drifted there. He said someone had taken her and brought her back. He looked out the window when he said it, eyes unfocused. I come here to remember her, he said, and to make sure I never forget. It was early October when he told me their anniversary was coming up. He asked almost politely if I'd be available that Wednesday. He wanted to go early, very early. I agreed. When I arrived that morning, I barely recognized him. The same man who usually looked worn and gray now stood in a crisp black suit, hair combed back, leather gloves, eyes bright. He looked alive. He got in, nodded once, and said softly, "Let's go." The drive was silent, but not like before. This silence was calm, focused. He looked out the window. The whole way, hands folded neatly on his lap. When we reached the town, I dropped him off at the same spot near the pier. He thanked me for the first time. Then he stepped out and walked toward the boardwalk. I waited. Hours passed. No notification, no return request. Around dusk, as I debated leaving, my phone finally buzzed. Pick up, same spot. He climbed into the car, cheeks flushed, eyes wet but smiling. I did it, he said. It was exactly like before. I didn't ask what he meant. He just leaned back, eyes closed, whispering. It felt so real this time. That night, when I got home, he tipped 100%. The next few days were good. He seemed lighter, almost cheerful. Every trip ended with huge tips, 100% every time. I told myself maybe he'd finally found peace. Maybe that was his closure. That weekend, I took a break, treated myself to a real meal for once. I sat in a nice restaurant, the kind I could never afford, before staring at the plate in front of me. For the first time in years, I felt like my life was turning around. Then my phone buzzed. It wasn't Uber. It was a news alert. Local report from the seaside town. Missing person, female mid-40s. Blonde hair, slender build. Last seen near the pier, early afternoon. The picture showed a woman I had never met, but I recognized her face instantly because he had described her to me in perfect detail. The cardigan, the smile, the hair. I stared at the screen until my food went cold. He had said it was exactly like before. I knew what that meant. My stomach turned as I thought of him in that same suit, that same pier, replaying his anniversary one last time. And me. I had driven him there. I could have called the police. I could have told someone. But as I looked at the table, the full meal, the new clothes, the car waiting outside that he had practically paid for, I realized something that made my chest tighten. I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to lose what he'd given me. So I didn't say a word. I deleted the app that night, and I've never driven for Uber again. But sometimes, late at night, when my phone buzzes for no reason, I see a request appear on the screen. Same name, same pickup spot, same destination. I never accept it. But I can't bring myself to delete it either. Because somewhere deep down, I think he's still waiting for me. And I'm terrified that one day I might accept. If you enjoyed this story, thank you for staying until the end. Remember, not every horror story needs a monster. Sometimes evil wears a smile and tips generously. If you ever find yourself driving alone late at night and the same passenger keeps requesting your car, maybe think twice before accepting. Because some routines were never meant to be broken. I'm your host, and this has been NightLore, where the darkest stories are the ones that sound just a little too real. Sleep well, if you can.